Good morning. Elle Ingalls here. We are on day 5 of this deep dive series I've been doing all week. So if you are here live, I really appreciate you joining me. And if you are coming on the replay, because maybe you're catching this late at night. I have some people who watch me at night because my voice helps them fall asleep. So I thank you for coming on the replay, watching this later sometime. This is going to reside on my YouTube channel too. So if you know of people that need this information, would really benefit from it, just have them go to Elle Ingalls. Just Google Elle Ingalls, the YouTube channel will pop up. And I'm going to place it all in a little playlist called Deep Dive for you. We will be doing another deep dive in June. I think I have it planned for. So about once a quarter, I'll come on in the mornings and do these 45-minute deep dives for you, specifically to help you. And let's see, I've got some people coming in here. So Judy, I'm just going to mute you. So, but I'll bring you out at the end so we can talk. And anybody else coming in Zoom, same thing here. So we're live on Zoom, we're live on Facebook. And today is a topic that I think is just incredibly important. Stressors around chronic mental and physical illness. Also mental and physical, I'm going to call them conditions. So you might not think of what you have that is chronic as an illness, but it is a condition that you're dealing with on a daily basis, because chronic means it's happening all the time, through time, chronic, chronos. And that's distinctive from something that might flare up and then go down. So chronic means it's a constant in your life. And so we're going to be talking about some specific diseases. Before we get into that, though, I want to share a framework right up front with you here to help you start to figure out when you are most stressed by this thing that you have, whatever it is, or it's like a catch-22. Having the condition stresses you out, and then the release of stress hormones makes the condition worse. So stress hormones, when you release them, either directly cause, or make worse any chronic condition that you have, any of them. So there's some people that will be in denial about that. I worked with a community on a particular disease, and they're like, oh, stress doesn't cause it. But if you actually look at biologically what happens with the stress response, you can see that there's a direct cause. So there's also so much happening in here that will keep us locked in our conditions. So our mental anguish, our mental stress. So you might feel that your chronic condition is directly caused by some mental stress that you're having, or you're really stressed at work, or really going through something very difficult in your personal life, and your body is showing on your body. So here's this little framework for you. First, if you can identify, when do you think, I made a note here, and I think it's important. When do you think about your chronic illness? Are there times in the day that it's prevalent on your mind? And you might say, I'm always thinking about it. If you're type 1 diabetic, it's like almost always on your mind. It's probably always on your subconscious mind. But if you can identify certain times in the day when you are specifically thinking about it, that can be really powerful for you. So just really kind of relax into this and notice, oh yeah, I think about it first thing in the morning, or I think about this just before I'm going to bed because it keeps me up. Or I think about this when I have downtime. A lot of times we think about our chronic illness when we have downtime. So is there a time when you're thinking about it? Secondly, when do you experience the symptoms? Because I'm going to take a guess that you don't experience all the symptoms of the condition all of the time. But it's when you do that you get locked into this catch-22 of the stress causing the symptoms then causing you to be stressed. So we're in that. if that makes sense for you. So when do you, and then secondly, when do you think about it, but then also when do you experience it? This is what I'm doing here with you, is getting you to acknowledge patterns. See these patterns that you have. I was very oblivious of my own patterns with my illnesses. And to be able to see them is real eye-opening. And then you can go through your day and be doing just fine, and then something will remind you of your condition. For me, when I had one of the things I would have stress acne pretty much all the time. Like on my cheeks, they would be very red. People thought it was like cosmetic blush. It was not blush. It was rosacea. It was like stress acne. And my heart always goes out to anybody who has it, because of course I'm doing my day, but then I look in the mirror. I don't see my face all day. But then when I would look in the mirror, I would just instantly go into fight or flight, just I was ashamed of my face. I was ashamed of my face. It's a terrible, terrible thing to be ashamed of. And so also I had eczema on my hands. So anytime my hands touched water or soaps, like I'm trying to wash my hair, it's painful. So anytime I had water touch my hands, another reminder, I have this horrible eczema. Anytime I put my fingers on my bow, I had this little boy, he was like 7 years old. He goes, "Mrs. Ingalls, do you have leprosy?" He thought my fingers were so damaged that they might fall off. Like, they were so bad. So what reminds you of your conditions? It could be something like a mirror or just situations. When you can figure out some of those things, then you can notice that's the time when I trigger fight or flight. That's a possible trigger for you. So in Pressure Free, we have three tools or 3 steps. Targets, what are you aiming for? And right here in this moment, whatever your conditions are, whatever you're suffering from, mentally or physically, I want you to open up just this little bit of hope. What I can't promise you is that your condition will completely alleviate. But what I can promise you is that if you start to use the pressure-free method and not trigger the stress response so much, your body stands a better chance at healing. I've seen miraculous things happen with my clients, but I can't make any claims here. All I can say is that I know that biologically, if your cells aren't spending all their time dealing with stress hormones, they can actually function correctly and your body processes can work. And that's for things like digestion, infertility, anything up here, thinking, logical thinking, creativity, anything that your brain does. With diabetes, your pancreas has to go work in overtime every time you trigger the stress response, because we drop a bunch of glucose into the bloodstream. So every time that happens, your pancreas has to get to work and provide insulin. That's huge. If you're pre-diabetic or you are a diabetic, even type 1, if you're type 1 diabetic and we can get a little bit of a handle on the release of these stress hormones, that's huge for you. So if you know someone who has pre-metabolic syndrome, who's moving into diabetes, this learning pressure free could be so huge. So what is that target for you? What could you, for a moment, actually believe could get better for you? And I'm saying that because if anyone would have told me back in 2010 that this eczema would go away, I would completely say, no way. I've tried everything, diets, creams. I even tried the bag balm they use on cow udders. Like, I tried everything and nothing worked. And maybe you have tried everything, but you haven't tried this method unless you've worked with me. You haven't tried this. So I want you to open up belief for a moment that something could improve. That's your target. And if you're taking notes, or next time you get to a pen and paper, I want you to write down what your life would be like if you had less of these symptoms. Because Illnesses and conditions are defined by your symptoms. So if you had less of these symptoms, what would your life be like? Maybe you'd sleep better. Well, now you're going to get a better night's sleep. So now when you wake up, you're more refreshed and your cells got to do some healing work. So really write it out. Go as deep as you can with that target on whatever illness or condition you have that you think could maybe improve. Then triggers, which is what we were just talking about, figuring out, is there a time of day that's triggering you about your thing? For me, it was looking in the mirror, putting my hand on my violin bow. Like those were moments that if I had known this, I could have relaxed my belly. I could have gotten wide. I could have said, this is going to be okay. So I don't release those fight or flight stress hormones that are going to make all of this worse. Your skin is your largest organ. So it can be the thing that's actually revealing some stuff to you. If you have cold hands and cold feet, that's another sign too. Cold hands and cold feet, people say, oh, you have a thyroid issue? You have a stress hormone issue. Let's work on the stress hormones first. Then the thyroid can work properly for you. Then you can metabolize well. Then you can digest well. And here's the deal, when you go into fight or flight, for those of you who your symptoms, your things are in your gut. We talked about that on day 1 with Dr. Sue McCready. If it's your gut, when you trigger fight or flight, you shut down your saliva glands and your entire digestive system slows down or stops. So you're not digesting your food properly. So the nutrients can't get out to all of your cells to keep you healthy. So you may be eating a really, really great diet. I have clients who eat incredibly well and exercise incredibly perfectly, and they still have a lot of issues. The missing leg of the stool, because they eat well, they exercise, is the stress piece. So their stool's tipping just because of that. And if you came on Wednesday, I think it was, I had William on with me, and he talked about, as a marathon runner now, he basically has no issues because he's really got command of the stress response. And he doesn't even have to go to the bathroom in the 3-hour run. It's amazing because I see runners use that restroom like 5 times before the race. And then of course they got to stop multiple times on the race too. So it's really amazing what can happen when we're not triggering the stress response. So triggers, identify. You gotta dig deep, because I'm 12 years into using this method on myself, and I'm still finding things that I trigger over. So it's an ongoing process, but you can really gain so much. So last step are tools. From a resting heart rate, you've got this 10-second window. Thank you for this 10-second window so that you can interrupt the stress response. You can stop stress at its source so the adrenal glands don't release that flood of hormones. It's brilliant. It's really brilliant when you think about it. To me, it's like the greatest human technology I have ever come across. Because when you can control the release of your stress hormones, you're able to think in ways that you might not have ever been able to think before. That's how I feel with my brain. I don't think I could ever even come on here and do this kind of thing and share with you like this with my old brain. I don't think so. Because I would be like, oh, am I saying the right thing? I would be second guessing, like almost, do you second guess? Like almost everything I'm trying to say. Oh, is that right? Am I leading in the right direction? I would be so second guessing that I couldn't even talk to you. I'd be saying a lot of ums. I still throw in a lot of ums, right? But it would be far less fluid. It's because this is now able to work in a way I never dreamed it could. And I have an old brain. I'm going to be 60 this year. It's an old brain. So thank you, Lori. Gave me some claps on there. So you know, this is an old brain. And doesn't matter. And I'm actually a brain health coach. I studied with Dr. Amen, if you're familiar with him. So I'm a certified brain health coach. And what I love about him is that your brain can change. Your brain can change really fast. And the fastest way I know to get your brain healthy is to not trigger the stress response. Then if you add a brain health diet, oh my goodness, your brain can really get healthy. And when I say healthy, I mean healthy, not just physically healthy, but I mean emotionally healthy. Because a lot of the stress that you're under, and let's go to, I'm actually going to share, let's see, I want to talk about anxiety, allergies, a couple of A's here. We talked about diabetes a little, but I want to get to ulcers. So I want to talk about those three conditions because I have a lot of clients who come to me like, I have allergies, I have asthma, or they have, most of them have some sort of anxiety, social anxiety, test anxiety, just general anxiety, performance anxiety, and then ulcers. So you might have ulcers in various parts of your digestive system. We think of them in the stomach, but they also can be in your intestines. So that's what I want to focus on right now for you. So let's start with anxiety. The first thing I want to soften, I'm using that word a lot lately, but it just helps, like just breathe a little bit, is claiming that it's your anxiety. I hear this a lot, and it's actually one of my clients who brought it up to me. I've worked with both her and with her mother, and she said, you know, I try to get my mother to not claim it's hers. So you're feeling anxious. It is a feeling. But when we claim it's our anxiety, I have my anxiety, it's almost like it becomes an identity. And I'm here to claim for you that that's not your real self. That's you under the influence of these hormones. When you can stop the release of these hormones, you can feel so much less anxious. And I want to explain scientifically why. This made so much sense to one of my younger clients that she actually broke the stress cycle in 2.5 weeks. Because you know what her target was? After telling me, you know, I want to be a graphic designer, I want to move to California, all this great stuff she wanted to do, she looked straight in my eyes with tears in them and said, Elle, I just want to feel happier. So that was her real target. She wanted to feel happier. I had a mother say to me, Elle, I just want to feel more in control of my emotions. They're just all over the place. I'm a hot mess of stress and I'm tired of it. Are you tired of that emotional roller coaster? What if we could shave that off a little bit and get it move? I like to say, let me take the whole thing and move it up here. So yeah, you're still going to feel things, but you're not going to overreact. When you trigger the stress response, the first flood of hormones goes out and you're adrenaline filled, like you're overexcited, or you're over frightened, you're very scared, and you may fight or you may retreat. You may run away, you might freeze, you'll make up a lie to your boss, you'll fib, or you'll get overexcited and be like, oh, I love your shirt, you're fawning, you want to be in the tribe. So those are the things we'll do. We'll also fidget. Do you know any? I don't have a pen with me. A little pen clicker. You're in the meeting and someone's going click, 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 or their knees jiggling. They're like jiggling. They can't sit still. That's fidgeting. So those are your F's. And I can't get distracted. Okay, F's. Where am I? Oh, I lost it. So where am I? Anxiety. Okay. What people don't know is that there's a second flood, or most people don't know there's a second flood of hormones that goes out to actually fix the cells that we've messed up from the flood of adrenaline, from the little cocktail. Call it a cocktail. And here's the deal. The second flood of hormones can make you feel anxious for no reason. So if you've been diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder, which is a fairly new disorder in the big list of disorders, a lot of that is simply biological. Your biology is deciding what's happening psychologically for you. So if you feel kind of anxious or worried and you're like, I shouldn't be worried here, everything is fine, but why am I worried? If you're feeling that, that can be strictly hormonal. It's just your brain on these hormones, if you will. If you're as old as I am, we used to have these drugs by PSAs by the government. They said, this is your brain on drugs. And it was a fry pan with this egg frying. Does anyone remember that? Lori's laughing. Like, okay, that's your brain on stress hormones. Okay. It's like the fry pan with the egg. You're anxious, you're worried. And now you can't sleep because you release cortisol, which is your wake up drug. Or you'll get to sleep, but you're awake at 2 or 3 a.m. If that's happening to you, you're not getting a real quality night's sleep. Now your body's tired when you wake up because all your body's been doing all night is dealing with the stress hormones. So you're not renewing, refreshing, rejuvenating. One of my clients said, I feel like I hit the reset button. And now I wake up and I have energy and I'm not tired anymore in the morning. I don't even touch the snooze button. Like I just have the energy. It's like she's finally getting a real night's sleep. Is this making sense? Like it's the biology that's affecting it. So when I think about the young woman I was working with who wanted happiness, she wants to feel happy. Because she wanted it so much, she dug in with me. And in 2.5 weeks, she had her breakthrough day. She went the entire day and she didn't trigger the stress response. That is powerful. Her why was really big, which is why I said, open up and really believe that the symptoms that you have could start to actually lower. And then what would your life be like? When you can get that picture really clearly in your mind is going to start to help you with that. Because every thought you have is an electrical impulse. Every thought you have affects every bit of your DNA. Every thought you have, it's incredibly powerful how you can flip the switch and turn it around to something that serves you, not corrupts you. Is it contributing to your health? Or is the thought you're having corrupting? When I looked in that mirror and I would see my stress acne and go into fight or flight, my thoughts were not helpful. My thoughts were, oh my God, I can't believe my face is like this. It's like I'm a teenager and I'm 35 years old. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get my skin healthy? And I eat the best foods and I try to do everything. It wasn't the food, it was the stress. So my thoughts then are circulating that way. Does this make sense? Do you loop like this on something? And then it's like, it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. I keep spilling more and more of these. I'm so lucky that I didn't actually have a condition where I'd fried my adrenal glands. Because every time I looked in the mirror, I saw that. Every time my hands touched the water, I saw that. Every time I got a mammogram, and they said, we can barely see what's going on because you have such dense fibrous breast tissue. I'd just go into a panic. So what is it that's causing you your panics? Did you get some sort of test results? That's really hard. It's really hard to use the pressure-free method even when you get a diagnosis. It can plunge you into some really, really dark places. And so if that's you, I really want to support you. I want to be there for you. And that gets us into, let's talk to allergies next and then ulcers. Allergies are a little less dark than ulcers. Ulcers, though, are incredibly painful. And some science came out. So when I was a little girl, the only real medical things, ads I could remember on TV were about ulcers. And they had this like little stomach and it wasn't doing so well. And it was because a lot of people, especially people working, were getting ulcers. And so ulcers this was medicine for it, but it was like, it's a stress-induced disease, right? And then science came out and said, no, it's caused by a bacteria. So ulcers are caused by a bacterial mess up in our digestive system. But here's the deal. When you're in fight or flight and you release those hormones, you create a very acid body. Your body gets very acidic. Cancers and bacteria thrive in an acidic body. So stress is still the culprit. And when you can keep your body much more alkaline, because a lot of people will try to eat real alkaline diets if they've been told to do that. If you've been told to do that, gotta have a more alkaline body, but you're spilling stress hormones. It's like you're counteracting all the good things you're trying to do. And then your body's like fighting. So it's really cool when you can get your body in a more alkaline state by simply not triggering the stress response. It's powerful. Let's go to allergies now. So we covered the ulcers, cancer, bacterias, allergies. So occasionally I take a 10-year-old client. I haven't coached as younger than that personally, one-on-one, But I had a 10-year-old who came to me for math and soccer, were the performance things that we were improving. But as we did the intake session with his mom and him, it was clear that allergies were a really big deal. So he was always having to take allergy medicine, and his dad had allergies too. So it was like, oh, my dad has them, so that's just me. Like, it's genetic. I have these allergies too. And so I didn't say anything more about it. We just focused on pressure-free, on him using the pressure-free method in, he's a brilliant little boy. He was taking a very high level math. And by having, he could understand it all and do it all, but testing was a little hard. So we worked on test anxiety. We're working on all that. We get to our last session in my intro course together. We're sitting there and I go, I went back over our intake form and I go, I want to share with you, I want to ask, like, how are your allergies? And he got this huge smile on his face and he looked at his mother and he goes, well, I don't have allergies anymore. It had been weeks that he hadn't had any allergies. They're completely gone. And the thing is, that might happen for you. Like, your condition might completely go away as you stop releasing these hormones. But then there's a sneaky thing that can happen: doubt. Doubt can creep in. And I always work with my clients on this because, you'll make progress and then this little seed of doubt will come in, like, oh, but can this actually last? I'm just going to get personal here, but when my breast tissues completely changed at 8 weeks into using this method, I was like ecstatic. Did I just give myself like 20, 30 more years? Like, I don't know. But I was so happy. And then all of a sudden this seed of doubt came in, and like, but what if this doesn't last? What if this is just a blip? So I want to share with you that it's important not just like to learn this method, but to begin to master it. And my clients always know that I'm here for as long as I'm on the planet. And after I'm gone from the planet, I have sons who will keep this thing going because they're so committed to it. But you always have me in your court, because the seeds of doubt can take you back to where you were very fast. And then you're back on that emotional roller coaster. You're back releasing the stress hormones. And, I'm pretty fortunate because I coach this all the time, that I'm always in it. I'm in the work. And that's why it's so cool. I have some people on Zoom here who are in my certification program, because I can't tell you how excited that is for me, because they're living the work. Like, when you live the work, because this is a lifestyle, you just start living this way and share it with others. It just makes it so much more real for you. And it can help overcome those little seeds of doubt. So watch for the little seeds of doubt as you make any sort of progress in something, because I think we talked about this, glass ceilings. Did we talk about glass ceilings? I've been coaching so much lately, I don't even remember what I've shared this week and not. But you'll hit a point where you'll feel like, oh, it can only be that good. I can't get beyond this. And I'm here to tell you, you can break that little glass ceiling. You can actually break through it. If you haven't read The Big Leap by Dr. Gay Hendricks, great book, that can get you started. It's the stress response that keeps us under these glass ceilings and locked down. So when the little doubts come in, those doubts are when you're hitting this upper limit. And we need to break that, because there really is this limitless ability of your brain, of your body. We see it in geniuses, but you know what? You are a genius. I love it when I have a young person who gets like C's and D's come in and like, oh, well, I don't get very good grades. I'm like, well, tell me what your grades are. Sometimes they're so afraid to even tell you what their grades are. It's incredible. And so I'm like, this is judgment-free zone. You can just tell me, it's fine. I'm like, well, I get C's and D's. And I'm like, and one kid actually said to me, I'm a CD student, like that. But he had just gotten an A for the first time on a test. And I go, so I guess you're not a CD student anymore. It's amazing. So I used to joke like, take any kid. If you see my post, if you're on Facebook, go down and see a post I dropped yesterday. It was just memories from when my husband and I were raising our kids, and my kids were little. They're like 4 and 2, but you're going to see kids like big kids in my yard. All the kids came to our house to play in the neighborhood. So we've got basketball going on, hockey over here. Like the kids are all over the friggin' yard. It's hilarious. And it just brings a huge smile to my face. I wish I had pressure free back then, because I could have shared with every kid in that yard that they are a genius. Your brain is genius material. It's just, for a lot of kids, the stress response has blocked them. And you know what you see over time? And maybe you look in the mirror and you see this in yourself. You see that your eyes are a little dim. You've lost your spark. I see this happen in children, like they get to like middle school. It's middle school. What is it about middle school? It's a tough time. Middle school is a tough time. I see the light go out. And it's so, so sad. My husband and I would talk about that with our own children. Like, how do we keep the lights on? Passion, excitement, loving what you do, loving life from the moment you wake up in the morning. Like the love of life. Keep the lights on, keep the spark in your eye. But then I see it when people are in really tough work positions. I see it when people start aging and feel like there's it's kind of strange, but I've seen it with a friend of mine who's a gay man. He's like, other men don't look at him anymore. And the light goes out of his eyes. Like, I'm not attractive anymore. This can happen for people. You get to a certain age, you feel like, people don't look at me anymore. My mother-in-law would talk about that with me. There's like this very clear distinction when suddenly people don't notice you. You feel invisible. And the light's going out of your eyes. If you feel like you're invisible, the light's dimmed a little bit. So we got to get that light back in your eyes. And stopping the release of the stress hormone is huge. So let's see, did I cover all my little diseases? I'm going to take one more thing because it's coming on my mind to share about this. And this is for you if you're wanting to have a baby and you're having trouble conceiving. So I'm running into this a lot of women. They've been putting off having a baby, and then they're having a lot of trouble conceiving. When you're in the stress response, our reproductive systems, and this is for you whether you're having a baby or not, but our reproductive systems, again, slow down or stop, just like our digestive system. If we went back thousands of years in tribal situations and our tribe is under attack, that system shuts down because we can't be producing babies if we have to run. We can't be big and pregnant if we have to run. And so it's just a natural thing that happens in order to prevent birth, to save ourselves. So when you can refrain from releasing these hormones, all those processes down there can start to work better for you. So if you have any issues down there, people have a lot of issues down there. This can be so helpful. Another issue that's down there is frequent urination. So I'm gonna bring that one forward. I was talking about it with, the runners, but there used to be a billboard on I-94 between Chicago and Detroit going east. I don't know if my friends who live there remember this, but it was a huge billboard with one of those cutout women that you would see on like a restroom with the dress, and hands going over your, what parts, right? It was like, do you pee too often or something like that? It was a urination thing. It was for my urologist. It drove me crazy. I'm like, stop it. I would see the billboard and I'm like, pull over. We've only gone 15 minutes down the highway. And now I have to go to the bathroom because I saw the sign. So I used to think I had a bladder issue after my third baby, because that was me. Like, we'd be, I don't know, not even an hour down the road And I'm like, oh God, I have to go to the bathroom again, even though I just did it at the house, right? And on stage, Lori and I played the symphony together. Like backstage, I'm like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom again. What's wrong with me? I was once playing, I was a solo violinist in a huge, it was like a packed hall for this show. I'm the only violinist. In the middle of the show, I'm like, I thought I was going to pee on the chair. Like it was that bad. And so I really thought I had this issue. And here's what it was. It was definitely that I was triggering the stress response all the time. But having 3 children and being the family that we were, I was just overwhelmed. So that's what's causing me to trigger the stress response all the time. So I didn't have a bladder issue at all. It's not that. It was not that. It was a stress response issue. I was just releasing a lot of stress hormones. So your bladder and sphincter muscles will contract and you're spilling all kinds of stuff in your body. But even then, like you might go and there's just like a trickle. Especially some of my male clients will say that, like I go in there and there's like nothing coming out. I feel like I have to go. It's because the muscles are contracting. And so I've worked with people who said, they're like, for me, not me, but one of my clients, instant diarrhea, like instant. If you're eating breakfast, I'm sorry. It's like incredible though, how messed up those body processes go. So, yeah, if whatever, let's go back to this little framework at the beginning, whatever conditions you have, I want you to open up to possibility. Again, I can't promise you that it will completely alleviate, but I can promise you that by not triggering your stress response, something different can happen. And so for those of you who want to go deeper, I am holding a special workshop on Sunday evening. I'll be dropping the links here for you after sometime this morning. I'll drop all those links here on my Facebook page, on Instagram, and also on LinkedIn. And it's going to be a really in-depth workshop where we're going to talk about how you can begin this process, how you can actually step on this pressure-free journey and start to have some of these conditions lessen the symptoms. Let's lessen the symptoms first. That's powerful for you. If that makes sense to you, if that's really powerful for you, I really hope you'll join me. For those of you who are my clients or are pressure-free in the pressure-free membership portal or in the certification program, this is free for you. This is a part of your program and you're happy to come. For most of you, it will be review but you know what? The more we review, the more we learn. And I'm always dropping new little seeds. Like I keep learning. I research probably at least twice a week. I'm always researching something new about the stress response to bring it forward to you. So I hope you will join me for that. It's going to be really pretty powerful. But if you're like, don't want to, here's the deal. Stress is a really private subject. I have people who don't want anybody to know that they work with me. I have companies that have worked with me and they don't want anybody to know because there's still a stigma, right, around mental health. So I respect that. I really respect it. And if you're like, I don't really want to be in a group, then please private message me or go to speakwithL.com and let's talk one-on-one. Because I really respect your privacy and I really respect that you want to not be in a more public forum to work on this. I can also say too that when you and actually working in groups is new for me as far as I've been training groups for years, but actually real hard work together is new for me, and I'm thrilled to see how people help each other. I've done it in families for years, like work and pressure-free an entire family. And it's beautiful to see because you can all help each other or work teams. But strangers, that's something new that I'm doing, and it's beautiful. So, but I do respect your privacy. So I'm here for you that way. And I'm just going to let Judy and Lori are here. And I wonder if you have any questions this is the end of our little 5-day series. So you can feel free, unmute yourself and come on out.
No, I don't have any questions, and I'm in a very loud moving vehicle, so.
That's great.
we're heading to Columbus, Ohio for a softball tournament.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's great fun. Well, Lori, I want to thank you. You've been on, I think you've been with me every single day live on Zoom. It's really great. It's been great to have you and just to see your face on there while I'm talking away. So thank you so much for being here. And Judy, did you have any questions before we sign out here? And I'm still live on Facebook, but if you have a question that might help, people watching, we'll close out with a question today. Oh, I guess she doesn't have any. So, well, thanks so much for being with me. Anybody here on the replay, this is it's life changing when you start to learn this stuff, and it is. I don't know where I would be. Honestly, I don't know where I would be if I hadn't figured this out for myself. So, if you have chronic mental or physical anything, conditions, diseases, things that are blocking you from having a really beautiful, powerful life, let's connect and let's really make a difference for you. Let's see what might be possible for you, and at least lessen some of those symptoms for you so that they're not constantly on your mind, which is causing that feedback loop to keep you in the stress response. So on that note, we're closing out our deep dive, and next week we'll go back to just our little 8 minutes every morning, and we'll do another deep dive in June. And I hope you'll join me for our Sunday night. I'll be splashing that around on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram so that you can be a part of it. And you can always find me at speakwithelle.com. That's my calendar. So have a great day, everybody. Have a great pressure-free weekend.